We can learn so much from where we've walked before. But if the tendency is to say, I don't like that history, so I'm not going to learn from that history, I'm going to pretend like it wasn't there, or it makes me feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to just pretend that we didn't learn anything from that, then that's pushing the infection back in again. So many of the things that are happening that what I'm beginning to see is the collective energy saying, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. That rage will hopefully turn into purpose.
Mhm.
And that we begin to see light through the chaos again.
Mhm. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Coach's Ascension podcast. So glad to have you here again today, where we are going to talk with Meg Rentschler, who is a PCC coach, but she's been coaching for a very long time, and she hosts the Star Coach podcast, which I'll link down in the description below. She and I talked together on her podcast about the light in chaos, connecting with that which is trying to emerge through all of this undoing that's happening in the world right now. So we are going to follow up with that conversation after everything happened with ICE in Minneapolis, and is continuing to happen, quite honestly. At this point in time, we wanted to discuss how this is emerging for us, how we are feeling with it, and what we might do with it. So as reality breaks every rule, it seems, that we've ever known, how do we show up? Who are we being? And how can we make a difference in the world? So I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you. Meg, welcome to the Coach's Ascension podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Grace. Such an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thanks. I was on Meg's podcast, the Star Coach Show, and the topic of our conversation was light in chaos. And we talked about essentially the chaos going on in the world these days and what's the light that's emerging from that, and can we get in touch with that really through our intuition, connecting with ourselves. And so I wanted to have Meg on because it was a popular conversation. I thought, well, why don't you come on my podcast and we'll talk about it too.
Well, it's always fun to do a switch anyway, right? It's always fun to be on somebody's show and then join their show and just kind of see how it's on the other side.
Yes. Yes. So I'm excited to have you here because you are a coach and you are also a mental health provider. You have an MSW, right? And a PCC. And you have also worked in critical incidents with organizations when you were doing more of the mental health stuff. So I think that's really relevant to where we are these days, at least in the United States, which is really, I think globally we have a lot of chaos going on, and I think the United States has done a really good job of poking at it, external to us, but also internal to us. So, yeah, Meg, why don't you just do a little introduction of you so people can get to know you a little bit?
Well, thank you for that, Grace. As you mentioned, I started my career as a psychotherapist. I was a psychotherapist for over 20 years, and then really began to see so many people coming to see me in my practice who were traumatized by their work environments, who were coming to therapy because they had dysfunctional work environments. Either they were being asked to lead, but really not given any tools to lead, so that was traumatizing, or being led by organizations that just didn't seem to understand the human component or what we need as human beings. So that's what led me into executive coaching, believing that maybe if I could go into organizations and help those leaders learn how to lead, because I really believe positive intent and people want to do the best they can and need the tools to be able to do that. So, got my executive coaching degree and started doing coaching, began being a coach instructor, joined the faculty at my school and then another school as well. So over the past 18 years or so have trained more than 2,000 coaches and mentored and started the Star Coach podcast as strategies, tools, and resources for coaches. Have since sort of let go of my coaching, my therapy practice. But as you mentioned, one of the big things that I did as a therapist was to go into organizations when there was a crisis and do a critical incident debrief to bring people out of that crisis and try to level set again, or at least give them tools to kind of help level set after a crisis. And in that period of time, since I have let go of therapy, all those skills just come with me into coaching, and then I get to meet incredible people like you through my podcast, and that's really kind of what I do to try to stay out of trouble.
Yes, thank you so much, and we'll try not to get into too much, but we wanna get in a little bit of trouble,
Well, a little bit of trouble because it's fun.
just enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I wonder, Meg, if we wanna start with just a moment, and I invite the audience to do this too, like, just a moment to, like, get in touch with your feelings around what's happening in the world today. And of course, Meg and I are in the United States, and so, we have a very US sort of centric perspective, but we understand there's a whole lot of other things going on in the world that are also sort of turning people's gears. So wherever it's relevant for you, to just take a moment and check in with, how are you doing? Like, what are your feelings? How are you doing with how things are? So I want to give everybody maybe 5, 10 seconds, just if you're not driving, to close your eyes and just sort of tune into that. How are you doing in all of this? Hmm. I can say I'm so I have so many feelings. The surface one that comes up right now is just rage. Um And then right behind that is this, like, deep sadness
Mhm.
for me. Um, my husband and I were watching sort of the stuff in Minneapolis unfold with ICE this weekend, and, um, my husband's from Minneapolis, and he's texting his
Oh,
friends like, "What's going on? How are you doing?" And his friends are super mad, and, yeah, um I haven't seen my husband mad in quite a while, and he was like, "I'm just so pissed off." Um, and I think it's just so easy to get into that, like, "What the F is going on?" And why, like, start taking sides and all of that.
mhm.
But beneath that, then there's this, like, there's a deep sadness. So, how is it occurring for you, Meg?
Yeah. Thanks for that, Grace, and your, like, real vulnerability and openness with that, and I think that I just keep coming back to disbelief, like, almost like, "Wake me up, this has got to be a freaking" like, we're gonna be taking a shower and realize that the whole last season was a dream, a nightmare. For anybody who didn't get that reference, that was, like, way old Dallas. The Dallas episode where, one of the characters supposedly died, but then they wrote him back into the script, so they made a whole season a dream. Um
That'd be nice. I
but
wake up tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like the whole thing was just a nightmare. Um, and so I end every one of my shows saying that we're all here on the earth together for a reason and that we have more in common than we do difference. And if we could lean into the commonality rather than the differences, I think the world would be a better place. And with that, Grace, I have to say that belief has been shaken for me in as much as I don't get people treating other people the way that I don't I so I say to myself, It's a difference in values, the things that we value and the things that we hold important. But I always believe, I mean, whether it was, big government or small government or so that I can, but when people are being treated as though they're not human beings and babies are being ripped away from their families and people are being shot and killed and there's this it's okay because this is so it's disbelief. I keep coming back to I'm going to wake up and this is going to be over, which I know is going to is very naive. This is happening. So rage, disbelief, and when I hear the justification and the when I hear things that I don't believe can be justified, and when I hear, just in general, I've always had a really hard time with double standards. Like these rules fit for me, but they don't fit for you, or you follow these rules, but I don't have to follow these rules. So the double standard and the hypocrisy of just the way that let's treat one another the way that we would like to be treated. So sadness, but disbelief. I think I'm really in a place of I've you can have your values, I have my, but when the values overstep the way that our spirits call to one another, and the fact that we're not listening to other people's beings, that makes me deeply sad. Like I could start crying just here talking to you on your podcast. I could start crying.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I I I feel that there's so many emotions happening in out there too.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard not to take sides, I think
It
sometimes.
is hard not to take sides. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just hard to be it's hard just in general in life. I find that it's hard and that it hurts my spirit when when I'm lied to and when I'm not given the credit to know that I'm being lied to, right? So in general, just in general, going there's certain personality types as you're a therapist that tend to be dishonest more than others. I mean, it's just you kind of get to know this. There's certain diagnoses that there's just certain things. And so my friends who were therapists with me would laugh because there were certain populations that I didn't like to work with as a therapist because they tend to be dishonest. Like it's just kind of part and don't get me wrong, I understand that it's part of the diagnosis, but when people blatantly lie to my face, it goes against it just irritates the bejeepers out of me. So the joke in the office would be like substance abuse. People who are deeply abused to substances often they rationalize and they don't tell the truth. I mean, I know I'm generalizing right now, but anyway, so color me surprised that I get annoyed when I hear, lies out being told to the population, wherever those are coming from, whatever's good. I don't like being lied. It hurts my heart. So, and when I'm told that what I see with my own eyes is not the truth,
Right.
that hurts my heart.
This is
So that's, I think,
gaslighting
where I
at its
was trying to get
finest.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is what gaslighting is. It's just
Yes.
you see something with your own eyes and then told that it's not that, and then you get to this point where you start feeling a little nuts, like, Am I really seeing things? And then you mix AI in with this, like, now AI can generate all these lifelike
Yes.
things, and then you're really like, "I don't know what I saw, I don't know what to believe."
Right.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Um, yeah, I spent a lot of time my life around a lot of spiritual stuff. I grew up with A Course in Miracles. I started meditating from a really young age and did a lot of energy healing and intuitive work. And um, I don't know, like, I'm almost 50. So over the course of my life, um, there's been a lot of messaging around like there's this time coming when, and I was thinking, oh, it's out there, like whatever, it's out there. And now I feel like, oh, there's the time coming now. Like
Yeah.
the shift is happening now that people have been talking about for at least a couple generations. And maybe it's a coping mechanism, and I'm willing to entertain that. But I very much feel that this is like we've had this wound for a really, really long time. This country was founded on separating from each other. Separating from
Mhm.
Europe, and then separating from each other in North and South, and not coming, not coming with kindness and compassion toward the Native Americans, but like separating them from their own land. So we've been founded in separation. We're highly independent. We don't need to be with our families, like all of these things, yeah. But
Mhm.
this is a wound. We need each other. We need to be loved. It's a fundamental human need.
Mhm.
And and I think this wound that we've had around being separated from everything, from each other, from ourselves even. We're very separate as a culture from our own. We've been, commercials and all these things tell us what we need. Oh, you got wrinkles? Oh, okay, you need this, we've been told what we need.
Mhm.
And so we've separated from who we are and the wisdom that we have and the gracefulness of growing old and all of those
Mhm.
things. So I feel like this wound has been there a really long time, and now it's festering, and like for a gross image, now this pus is coming out.
Mhm.
In reality, like we're rejecting separation, and it looks gross when that rejection starts to happen, and those who are trying to hold on to what they've always known are holding on so tight, and this wound is trying to heal itself. Pus is gross, but it has a purpose, and that's to eat all the bacteria.
Right, and to kinda cleanse the wound, right? To get it all out. So
Yeah.
right now we're getting it all out, and we're seeing things that
Yeah.
aren't very attractive, and I think it's leading us to so we have to make a choice. What are we doing with this infection? What are we doing now that we see it bubbling up? Are we holding on to things that serve us or don't serve us? Are we treating one another in a way that serves humanity? So yeah, it's ugly and yet it leads us to choice. So we've got the ugly. It's going to be there. It's there. Meg can't go to bed and think that it's just a dream and I'm going to wake up and it's going to be gone. Um, and yet every single action gets what's our reaction to that? How are we as a humanity deciding what's important and what we want to do? And not that every one of us is going to make the same choice, but I think collectively, and there's a lot of research to show that when enough collective energy decides together what is and is not okay, like what is important, and bands together through prayer and through action and through like it shows it makes a difference. It makes a difference. We can cleanse the wound.
Yeah, this
We
is
have
our
that, but
it's like our immune system. Yeah, like the strength of us together in community pushes out the bacteria. Yeah, I like that metaphor.
and yet if we all huddle individually, to your point, if we decide that the only way to make it through is to separate more and to stay separate and alone and maybe in our own little pods of people, but just like, I'm just gonna hunker down and hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and just hope that it goes away. That's not allowing us to put our collective energy together. We've got to put our collective energy together in and there is a collective energy right now that's happening. So the question is that the energy you want to be with? Or is there a counter energy that you want to be a part of to make so that ultimately we we agency, we have choice, we have purpose. But like hiding and covering up our eyes and ears isn't going to make it go away.
Mm.
Whatever it is. I mean, whatever the we've just ignoring isn't going to impact is I guess my point. I stepped on you. I'm sorry.
No, I think, yeah, it's interesting. That made me think of going back to how this country was founded on a lot of separation. And then the line that just came to me is a house divided cannot stand. And the power of that statement amongst how we were founded. It's this weird juxtaposition between separation and collectivism. And um I think we're trying to heal that now. Like, we need to move into a place where we are a collective and we're taking care of each other. And, my neighbor is important and we may not see eye to eye, but like, I'm not going to go burn down their house because I don't like them. Um, yeah, there's like this maturity that is on the verge of happening, but we're still very much like we're in that, like, I don't know what you would call an adult. I go for 30, but we're still very much in that like adolescent, me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we're this now that we see this, how dirty this wound is and how much it needs to be cleaned. And sometimes we need that. We need that pain and we need the attention on the pain to see what really do we value as a collective, and
Mm-hmm.
how does our immune system push out that which is not that.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like you said, disbelief. Like, I thought we had that. I thought we had a system. That's what laws are for. That's what the courts are for, to push out the things that aren't in our collective agreement. In our Constitution is our collective agreement. And if you live in this country, whether you're naturalized or other born here, like, that's the agreement under which we function.
And
Yeah,
it
not
doesn't work if it only protects some people and not all people. It
yeah.
doesn't it doesn't work if oh I deserve due process, but you don't deserve due process.
Mhm,
Or if that this very thing this that has made this country what it is all of a sudden gets thrown away for a majority and only a minority get protected by it. That doesn't make any sense.
mhm. Yeah, so to your point, what energy, what collective, what values are we putting ourselves behind, and what kind of energy are we personally putting into that? What is it that it's the little things, like paying attention to the clerk at the grocery store. We actually look at them in the eye and look at their name tag
Thank them
and say,
for their work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and thank them.
Ask how their day was. Mhm.
Yeah,
Treat
that's
them like a human being.
mhm,
And I'm not naive enough to believe that we're all, like all however many people there are in the world, are all going to see things the exact same or believe things that I get that. I get that that's not the case. Um, I would like to believe that the majority, even 51%, value sanctity of life, value that we are all human beings with feelings um, and a right to live and breathe and eat and put food on our tables and love one another, love the people that we love without judgment and hatred. And, I would like to believe that there is a certain level that the majority of us can agree together. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be that we see everything eye to eye, but I do believe, and I've seen it kind of across the globe, but I certainly have seen it recently here in the United States, that when we are shocked enough by some of the things that we thought were just givens that are being taken away, that, like, you know, treating human beings as human beings, and gosh, so many of the things that are happening, that what I'm beginning to see is the collective energy saying, "No, that's not okay. That's not okay." That rage will hopefully turn into purpose,
Mhm.
and 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 that we begin to see light through the chaos again.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm wondering what would be different. So before all of this really started shifting, before the like, wait, am I dreaming kind of moment that seems to happen over and over and over and over again? uh, um, like before that, we had a long time of at least consistency of what the expectations were, and how we treated each other. And even if you had a different political perspective, you still honor that
Mhm.
person as a person, and so on. Um, what, what through this, on the other side of this, I guess I'm reflecting on how does that look different from before all of this sort of chaos started happening, at least in the United States? Would it be, it ca- we can't quite go back to where we were. Like there's something on the other side that is healthier.
I would agree with you. I think going back to your analogy, it's not like we put the infection back in and just zip up the wound and like the pus stops flowing, but we're just going back to the same infection.
Mhm.
Maybe it's that this wound being so open and so free flowing with pus right now, it comes out. So therefore, what's the healing look like? What is the rather than just pushing it all back down, if it cleans, what does a cleaner, healed body look like? I think it looks like acknowledgement that the infection was there,
Mm.
that what were some of the things that created the infection, like acknowledging. We can learn so much from history. We can learn so much from where we've walked before. But if the tendency is to say, I don't like that history, so I'm not going to learn from that history, I'm going to pretend like it wasn't there, or it makes me feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to just pretend that we didn't learn anything from that, then that's pushing the infection back in again. But if we can acknowledge, kind of put the light of day, put some sunshine on the wound and say, yeah, we've made some bad choices and we've done some things that were horrific and we've done some good things and we've had beautiful pieces of history and we've had horrific pieces of history. And what have we learned from those? And how do we lance that wound and let it come out so that we can say, "Ugh, there's some crap there and there's some beautiful things there. What do we learn? And how do we treat one another? And how do we move forward? Because we can't undo, but we can certainly learn. And we can't, and pretending like it didn't happen is discounting so many people who have been horrifically treated through history. That's not just saying that that's not the case, that that didn't happen. That's just putting the infection back in the body.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
yeah, I'm right there with you, Meg. Like, and I feel like the there's so many. I think I feel like we were. we were starting down that path quite well, actually. And it feels like we pushed a little hard on that wound, and the wound pushed back.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we're going through now is maybe we were just trying to zip it up. And in doing that, like, things started to push out, and now we're really it's like,
Mhm.
"No, no, 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 you got more to do than just, like, be like, 'Oh, I'm sorry.'" But what are real reparations look like? What does it really
Mhm.
look like to honor the Native Americans in a way that allows us to see them, us
Mhm.
being anyone other than a Native American person.
Right.
They were here first, and they I'm sorry, but, like, I'm not sorry. They had this connection with the land. Land wasn't owned. It was Earth was a
Right.
being to relate with, and, you know, so much of that culture was damaged that, you know, what's the high rates of alcoholism and drug abuse now in the Native American communities, and, of course, because they've been mortally wounded.
Mhm.
So I think we were starting there, and then we ran up against everything that, was like, "No, you gotta work a little bit deeper on actually getting to the authentic wound here and authentically, collectively repairing that together." Um, bec
But well,
Yeah,
not but,
and
that takes people truly believing that that's a responsibility, that that is needed,
Mhm,
that there is enough resource to go around, that it's not about hoarding and keeping. And if I acknowledge the woundedness and the way that we demeaned and desecrated what was sacred to the American Indian, and we stole people and treated them horribly and dragged them here from other countries, and that's how we've treated the African American and owned them. And I mean, and so now when we say it's time to heal, then it's like, but you don't take anything from me to heal. There is, I believe there's enough to go around, and that when we truly put our spirit into how do we want to be in this moment? And I guess we want to be differently. I get that. I get that we don't all want to be the same, but I can say that there's healing that needs to be done, and ignoring that it happened, or saying, you know what, that doesn't make me feel good, so we're not going to focus on that. We're going to just, um, I guess, I'm a big believer that to really understand other people, you have to see through their lens. You have to kind of walk the path, and you have to care enough to do that. And I'm sorry, I am the mother of two adult, beautiful men who are Caucasian and privileged just by the fact that they are. I mean, I'm sorry, and because of they, we drew a lucky straw. I'm sorry. So I never had to have a conversation with them about watching every single word that they say if they ever get pulled over, or if they ever I didn't have to have the kind of conversations that people of color have to have with their children. And that's not because I did something beautiful. That's just because I happened to be born the way that I was born. And I think that for us to say, well, that's not that doesn't make me feel good to think that. Well, it's the reality. So if we are a collective human being, if we are collective as human beings, we have to realize that everybody has been dealt a deck of cards that might be a different deck of cards than ours. And if I'm holding my deck of cards saying, you've got to operate the way that my deck of cards is, and they weren't even given any of the same cards. That's that's um that's just I don't think that's going to do any healing. That's to me that's once again kind of adding to the infection. I
Yeah.
kind of went down a bunny trail there. I apologize for that.
That's okay, I like bunnies. Oh, I wanted to touch on that from the perspective of our own personal healing, that critical mass really does come from facing what it is that maybe you haven't wanted to see in yourself, that you've been avoiding and pushing away, blaming on somebody else. You know, what separates you from others, and being courageous in facing that, because quite frankly, most of us don't actually, we come by it innocently, let's put it that way. I was gonna say we don't own it, but we kinda do. Um, but, there's a generational pass down of the way that we see things, or, cultural or familial, like, you know, traumas that we've had personally that have caused us to close down or feel a particular way, and it takes a lot of courage to see them for what they are and move past them, which isn't it's just not easy. You have to actually break a habit. It's like quitting smoking
Mhm.
in a way, because this thing always kept you safe, so to speak. But now we're in this place where our old habits and our old belief systems are not going to work anymore. And to find a replacement that works means we gotta cough up some hairballs, as my dad would say, on, stuff that needs to be mended within ourselves and within our familial line. I mean, we bring forward all of our ancestry. That's why I think we're still playing out this north-south thing just in America. It's like ancestry, pulling it forward every generation because each generation isn't taking responsibility for it. So we have to take responsibility for our generational, you know,
Mhm.
not just genetics, but the energetic accumulation of things that haven't been acknowledged or dealt with or healed.
Mhm.
Easier said than done, I know, but
Absolutely.
there are so many resources, coaching being
Yeah.
one of them, to start moving
Mhm.
through that. Oh, and I wanted to say, acknowledge the coaches and the supervisors who are listening to this conversation, and really, like, thank you for the work that you do, because this is the work that you're doing with others, and with yourself in order to work with others, and this is all healing. Like, your profession is healing yourself and others, whether you're a coach or a mental health worker or a
Mhm.
grocery store clerk who loves to talk to everybody.
Right.
This
Right.
is our practice, is bringing love into the space.
Well, and I think in bringing curiosity into the space, right? So I
Mm,
would say that my biggest struggle in the past couple years has been my struggle with staying curious about things that enrage me. Like that, I tell myself, try to understand, try to at least uncover the other perspective. Um, and I know that I cannot be curious and judgmental at the same time. I know that that's just I cannot hold curiosity if I'm married to a thought and I'm judgmental about the thought. And I got to tell you, Grace, there are some things that I have a really hard time staying curious about, staying or letting go of judgment about, that have probably increased dramatically in the last several months of my life or couple years. Like just so I would say that if if I as a coach, one of the things that I love about the work that we do is we invite people into exploration. We invite people into curiosity about themselves, about what's important to them, about where they want to get, about their relationships. Um, and what sort of shames me And I've got to be honest, I don't see a solution for is there are certain aspects of things that are going on these days that I have zero curiosity about. Zero, and cannot. I mean, it's sort of like pry it out of my cold dead hands. I cannot let go of the judgment of some of it. And that kind of uh impacts my heart and my being because in general, I tend to be a pretty curious, let's explore, let's look at. And so that's been a real woundedness for me. Something to your point that I'm going to have to really look at what do I want to, how do I want to deal with that? Because it has separated me from people that I love. It has separated me from who I want to spend time with. Um, and I don't think that that's where I want to be. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there in response to what you said in, the struggle that is reality for me.
Well, thank you, Meg, for being really vulnerable about that, especially as a coach. We want to have on the like, I did this work, cat. I did this. I got this.
Mhm.
Yeah, being able to say like, I don't got this one. Like
Yeah.
this is not easy at all. Is definitely there. It's definitely a challenge. I know I've done my share of screaming on Facebook and and on at the TV. Um, and when it comes to people that I'm face to face with, I'm really conscientious of these days, really not leaving people with a feeling of lack of care. I mean, we all have our days. I certainly do too, but I'm more conscientious of how I'm showing up now than probably I've ever been in the past. Um, I do think to your point, Meg, that maybe our ability to hold all of this in a way, I think we're going to be judgmental because we have a stance, and that is like we should love each other, period. Like treat each
Mhm.
other with respect, XYZ. Like we have that stance, so we're going to be judgmental of anything that's not that. Bless you.
Thank you.
um, but I think the paradigm shift is really um, considering that all of this is right on time. That how people are being is perfect, meaning this is what needs to happen for collective shifting. We need to get to that threshold where there's a collective paradigm shift in the way that we see things, and that it takes a lot of pressure to get there. And so the pressure that's being generated is right on time, and it's exactly what we need to evolve. And in a way, God bless the people that have to die, you know, and that have to be the bad guy and are carrying the burden of lancing the wound, so to speak. I think there is a place to honor them, that we will end up in a place so much more clear. And at that level that I see of higher way of being spiritually is looking back on this and honoring them for bringing us here. The people who were fierce enough to punch a hole in this so that we could all look at ourselves could also be honored. That's a whole paradigm shift.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Um, and then we have the choice to say if these if these people have been killed and if these people have taken on the yoke of what they believe is righteousness, even if we see it differently, how do we then kind of the wound's been lanced, so our part is in that as well. Like, what part do we want to play? What role do we want to play in this? The paradigm is playing out in front of us, so we can, and my point earlier, we could sit back and just watch to see what happens, but I don't think that's really honoring the time, and I don't think it's like, take a role. I'm not here to judge what role you take, but where do you wanna put your energy as a collective? Because I believe that we are all here to make a difference in the world, and what I might think is the difference might be different than what somebody else thinks the different, but I think I need to put my hat into the difference ring that I want it to be in.
Mhm.
Um, and inaction is action. So, like, but there's I recently heard, that just a pretty small percentage of people coming together, like, let's say 3.5% of the population, coming together to say, this is how we want how we want to treat one another, how we want to be with one another, what we believe to be true, how we honor, let's say, the Constitution, how we honor the law of the land. That many together might sound like a really small amount, but think about how many people that is, and the energy that goes when we all put that energy together. Because right now, the things that we're seeing on the TV is really a very small amount of people. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's small. It's like,
Yeah.
thousands, but it's not. It's when we think about the percentage of our population, it's a really small amount, and they're having a flow one way. Well, if we don't like that flow one way, how many of us would it take to flow in the other direction?
Yeah, I feel like the vast majority of people are actually in that place of like, what? Why can't we all just get along? Like, what is like, can we just take care of each other? I think really a vast majority of people are there. And it's like the switch just needs to turn on, like,
I
and I
think
think
we
that's
need
the
to
pressure.
believe that we have the power to turn on the switch. I think I
Mm,
mean, I think so many people are like, I can't do anything about this. And I would
mhm.
say, I disagree.
Yeah, well, I think that's where the pressure comes in is like it has to the steam has to get to that point.
Hmm.
Yeah, where we automatically turn on. And um I think I was thinking, yeah, in the like spiritual community we talk about the 100th monkey, and it's a very small, it's like 1% or something, very, very small.
Hmm.
And decades there have been groups working toward um this number. And it's groups of meditators, it's groups of people, anybody doing any kind of high level love oriented work on themselves, with each other, in community, right, raises the vibration. It only takes a small number of people doing that to flip the
Hmm.
entire thing. And so that's really what we're looking at, is like it's going to raise to the point where it flips, and that means it takes everybody with it.
Hmm. Yes.
And if you don't fit into that, if you refuse, you're not gonna last very long. Like, physically, you will curl up and die. Like, you will get ill, you will, like, you can't survive in that level of frequency if you refuse to be in it. It will push you out. Just the energy, not the people.
Right.
It's like walking into a room, like, if you're, like, a happy-go-lucky person and you walk into a room where everyone's been fighting, like, the last thing you wanna do is you're like, "Okay, see you later," like, I don't
Yeah.
know what that's about, but I don't really wanna be in that.
I don't want to be a part of there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think believing that there is a path. I don't know about you, Grace, but for me, there's been times that I just think, "Ugh, is it really gonna make a difference? Is it really gonna matter? Is it, um, this is just gonna kind of burn itself out?" But that's then I see, like, energetic gatherings, and I become a part of energetic gatherings, and I'm like, "This has got to make a difference. This has got to make a difference."
The fact that the in my experience and perspective, the fact that the wound is bleeding and doing all these things right now is a result of that. It's this collective energy that's really pushing to heal. And in that pushing to heal, it's pushing everything out. And it looks so scary on the front of it because in some ways it really is scary. But the you know, like I was saying, like I think if we can hold the individuals that feel on the other side, as playing the role that needs to be played
That
for
is
us
a
to heal, there's a way to honor that and
mhm,
release attachment and love them for playing the role that we need to see ourselves, because everything out there is just a reflection of what's in here, and so we need that to see where we're wounded and we need to heal, and we can honor that reflection, we can honor that and thank that and disconnect from it being wrong and instead be grateful for that being present so that we can move forward into something completely new that we've not experienced as a collective before.
mhm. That's a beautiful frame. It's a beautiful frame.
What comes up for me in that too is that sadness of like what is it? It's almost like a loss, like thank you for taking on the loss in a way for us to see ourselves.
Mhm.
This may be a stretch, but it feels a little like, and I am not by any stretch religious, but it feels a little bit like Jesus died for your sins on the cross. Like these people are putting themselves on the cross. And I'm not talking about necessarily folks that are fighting ICE and are getting killed as a result. I'm talking about ICE. I'm talking about,
Right.
those who are causing the trauma. Like they're really putting themselves out in this place and causing this chaos for us to see who we
That
are.
this is not okay. Yeah.
This
Mhm.
is who we have been being.
Mhm.
And I think we can embrace that and appreciate that and do what we need to be responsible for as a result of it. But if we keep pushing it away, then we just end up on that sort of train to nowhere.
Mm. Yeah, that's and so what what comes up for me in that is that doesn't mean then just step out of the way and let it be. Like I read something like the only reason why there's been any violence is because there's been peaceful protesters. And my response to that is no. There's things happening that are not okay, like students being grabbed off the streets or children being taken away from their families or the cook down the street being wrestled to the ground or whatever it is and people being shot. Um, and that has created us being able to see who this is a moment of choice. Who do we want to be? Who are we going to be? This ugliness is making us face something. And yes, there would the protesters would not have been shot if they weren't there. But that's sort of saying like if I wasn't in that car that got hit, I wouldn't have been hit. If I mean, like,
Mhm.
there's a right to be there. So based upon what you just said, what I'm what I what I took from that is not so much, so then we just curl up and let it happen because it's showing who we are or whatever. It's now, how do we respond to, how do we
Yeah.
want to be in response to that? How
Yeah.
do we want to this reality is here. So what are we going to do in response to it? And that's where I believe our collective energy comes into, us deciding as a race, as a being, I mean, like a human race, like, how do we want to be? How do we want to be in this situation? What do our hearts tell us? What do our spirits tell us? What do we, and maybe we don't all believe the same thing, but I can tell you, I think enough of us believe that we want to lance the wound.
Yes. This makes me think of after 9/11, how
Mm,
people were with each other. Like, we were so united and supported with each other. Like, this country came together in one heart.
it was amazing.
It was amazing, and I think that's a potentially, a sneak preview of who we can be.
Mm,
I mean, it was there.
mm-hmm. It was there. Unfortunately, as part of us, I don't know, a part of who we are as human beings, it seems to be that we all need to come together against something else.
All right.
So 9/11, we came together against the terrorists who attacked our country. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing right now is we're coming, so there is that othering, there is that pointing the fingers, there's the dividedness, but it's coming from within. So because it's coming from within and we're dividing, the body is being split and divided, then um I would love to see, and I believe that that it doesn't have to be about, we can come together on earth. We can come together in, how do we all want to be as human beings, versus it always has to be a bad guy against a good guy. It has to be us against something or someone. And I think that that's what's happening right now, that we're othering people, and that othering keeps the division. And at 9/11 there was an othering, and they brought it on themselves. I mean, I'm not,
Mhm.
but wouldn't it be grand? And I don't know exactly how to get there, but wouldn't it be grand if we could decide how we wanted to be without it having to be us against somebody? If we could all collectively, which is what I believe we're all kind of put here to figure out. How are you going to do it together?
Um, One of my favorite people from the last 5 years is Adam Kinzinger. So he's a House congressional
Yes.
Republican who essentially resigned.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think in my whole life I've ever been Republican. I'm currently independent. I lean Democrat just because I'm a socialist. I'm definitely for taking care of each other. That's how
Yeah.
Jesus would
I
have it. I
believe
mean,
there's
I would
plenty to go around. Yeah. There's
yeah,
plenty to go
there's
around.
plenty to go around. Yeah, yeah, and Adam said, he had he said, where'd it go? When it's in my head. Um, shoot, dang it, Meg, I lost it. Anyway, he's one of my favorite people, and he said
He and
something
Liz
to
Cheney were really brave
oh,
to stand
man
with.
has so much integrity. They both
Mhm.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they believed what they experienced and what happened rather than what they were told was true.
Yes, okay, here's what he said. He said
I knew that would come up. Okay.
yeah, thank you. He said, I've been a lifelong Republican, and what I believe as a Republican is standing for what not necessarily what I believe is right, but what I believe is good. And the Republican Party has essentially devolved into standing against what we hate, not for what we feel is
Anything.
good,
Mhm.
whatever it is, whether it's conservative spending or whatever, take your stand, but for something that you
Mhm.
want in life rather than against. And maybe to your point, Meg, that's the paradigm, is like, what are we all standing for? What do we want
Mhm.
more of? What do we want to invite in? And let's do that. Let's stand for something.
Mhm.
And yeah, highly recommend Adam on the political thing. He's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So how do we want to leave people,
Yeah.
Meg?
We went kind of over the river and through the woods and a lot of um I I love the perspective of if we're all pl- let, playing a part of the collective consciousness of where want to end up. How can we give each person credit for the part that they're playing and use that as energy and focus and decisiveness for where you stand in the picture and what is important to you, so because that takes away the division, it takes away the even lack of understanding. It can just be like, okay, that has to be there to be able to get to the other side. But what is the other side that you want, listener? And that's where I would say, like as you're listening, what do you want the other side to look like for you? And I don't expect that it's the same for everybody listening, but I would say it's each of our jobs to figure out what is that for us and then where do we stand in the picture?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. That's exactly what I was thinking, is reflect on that question of what do you want to create? What do you want to stand for? Can you hold everyone in their role and allow them to have the role, and just try on that they're in the role they're supposed to be in, um, and that they're doing it for us as a collective, and that we can be with that we can hold that, and we can also take responsibility for what it's showing us.
Mhm.
Yeah, by taking action to heal ourselves, to heal our community in small ways. This is not a heavy lift when it comes to just like saying hi to somebody. How was your day? Really? Like, how are you
Mhm.
doing in all of this? I think sometimes we think we gotta like carry the weight of the whole world so we can heal it and fix it. And it sounds so huge, especially as coaches and light workers and
Yep.
codependent people, we want to carry it. We don't have to. We can do the little things that come from our heart, and it's enough.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for being here, Meg.
Thanks for inviting me for this important, kind of all over the place conversation because I think, if anything, it probably represented that it's heavy. There's a lot. I don't think either one of us is like like I get exactly what's going on and what needs to happen. And now it is a bit of a, messy path. And I think heartbreak and overwhelm can sometimes really make it that much more difficult to deal with. So sometimes just talking it out. So if you listening are like, what? Where are they going? It's just like we were figuring it out. We're trying to just be. And maybe in our being, it can help you be as well. We're kind of trying to figure it out.
Mm,
So thanks for inviting me to kind of hash it out with you.
yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say, for the record, today is January 26th, 2026. And this is where we are at this time. And from an astrological perspective, huge shifts in 2026 and 2027. Next month, February in particular, we have Saturn and Neptune going to the world point at 0 Aries, and all astrologers around the world are expecting this to be the beginning of something really different. So we're expecting big changes in technology. We're expecting big changes in how we govern. We are going to see changes probably in borders of countries, and we're not going to recognize ourselves in 5-10 years. It's like when the iPhone came out and like your whole, you were doing the blueberry, blackberry, whatever it's called, blackberry. The
It was
blackberry thing was like
BlackBerry.
so revolutionary. And then Apple like blew our minds, right? And our world is forever changed. Forever is going to be like that, but lots of little pops and fireworks. So it'll be interesting to see how we shift.
Yeah.
Pay
Wow,
attention to
thanks for
February.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. February's my birthday too, so now I'm like, am I even gonna make it to my next birthday? No.
Oh, yes. The world's not going to explode. No. It's going to be
I just meant,
released.
like,
They'll be
overwhelmed. Yes.
first release. So let's see how this all pans out. But thank you, Meg.
Thanks, Grace.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation and that it was worth your while and made you think about what kind of reality, what kind of world you want to help build that will emerge on the other side of this chaos. So just a reminder, if you like this episode, to like and subscribe, and also go ahead and sign up on our Patreon page to get lots more for free. So until next time, keep connecting with others and keep connected with your higher self and keep visualizing the world that you want to live in on the other side of all of this chaos. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
In a world that's shifting, the veil grows thin. Truth is whispering deep within. Old ways fading, new light calls. We rise together, soul and all.